morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for your testimonies. Hope everybody's doing well. So today, for what Christians believe, we are returning to our study in Revelation. We took a few weeks off. If everybody remembers, we are talking about the tribulation, the end times. Tribulation is a period of 7 years that lasts 3.5 years. It becomes a great tribulation. Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, Revelation 6 through 19 talk about the tribulation. And we have been going through chapter 6. And we left off at the 6th seal. Everybody remembers. There was a book or a scroll in God's hand in chapter 5. Christ comes and takes the book from his hand to open the book, the only one worthy to. And he is breaking the seals on the book one at a time. And each time he breaks a seal, something happens, an event happens. This is John's vision, and he is describing what happens every time a seal is broken. So, if you look at chapter 6, verse 1, Christ breaks the first seal. And in verses 2 and 3, he talks about what happened. A white horse went forth with a rider who had a crown, and he went forth conquering. We talked about that. That was the Antichrist, who will be given a crown. He will rule in his time, and he will conquer. He will be in charge over everyone else at that time. Verse 3, he breaks the second seal. Verse 4, the red horse went out. And we talked about this was war. This was world war. It says that peace was taken from the earth, which the white horse brought, the Antichrist brought peace. Peace was taken from the earth with the second horse. And men will kill each other. Verse 5 and 6 was the third seal. A black horse went out, and this was world famine. Verses 7 and 8 was the fourth seal. A green horse went out. The rider on him was death. It says hell followed death. A fourth part of the earth was killed, beast and men. Basically, much death went on with the fourth seal, and a lot of people went to hell. Verses 9, 10, and 11 talked about the fifth seal, and these were kind of a vision of the people saved during that time of tribulation. And we were on last time we talked about Revelation. We looked at verses 12, 13, and 14. And this talked about heavenly signs. If you remember in Matthew chapter 24, This was Jesus describing the tribulation period. And he talked about, he said, immediately after the tribulation, the sun would go dark, the moon would be dark, and the stars will fall from heaven. It's the same thing here in verses 12 through 14. So we know what from Jesus said, we are now at the end of the tribulation. As Jesus said, immediately after the tribulation, the sun will go dark. So it's over now in chapter 6. It's over now. Verse 12, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth for hair. The moon became as blood. The stars of heaven fell. We talked about those stars being asteroids. The heaven departed, the sky departed, left. Every mountain and island were moved from their places. All that because of this great shaking. So today we're going to finish up chapter 6, which is verses 15 through 17. And this is the rest of the sixth seal. So look at verse 15. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, the mighty men, every bondman, every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? In verse 15, there's a lot of categories of men. No need to go through it. It's just to say all men. All men at that time. It says that they hid themselves in the dens, which is a cave, and in the rocks of the mountains. So at that time, which Jesus said immediately after the tribulation, all men are going to run for cover, basically. This is due to fear, obviously. And this is important. Just listen. This is Luke chapter 21. This is also Jesus talking about the tribulation. This is the same time period. Luke chapter 21, verse 25. Jesus says, there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars. We know what that is. And on the earth, distress of nations, which is to say, nations or all people will be greatly stressed out at that time. With perplexity. Perplexity is anxiety, fear, worry. The sea and the waves roaring. This is not something that Revelation says. The sea and the waves roaring. The ocean will be splashing everywhere at this time. Verse 26. Men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Remember in Revelation 6, he said there's a great shaking. Men's hearts failing them for fear. Revelation talks about what they'll be doing. And this Luke, when it says men's hearts failing them, the Greek word for failing means to expire. Men's hearts will expire for fear, for reason of fear. That is to say, they will have so much fear that they will be dying. Their fear will be so great that they'll die. Rapid heart rate, cardiac arrest.
Amen.
Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. So they're scared of what's still coming. Some of them dying. Revelation 6, verse 15, some of them don't die. It says some hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. They'll be so scared they're going to run to the mountains and go inside of them. What are they hiding from? Verse 16. And said to the mountains, sometimes fear makes people do dumb things. They're speaking to mountains. Said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. It's not what they're hiding from, it's who they're hiding from. Fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So this is a collective saying of men. All of them are going to wish to die. They're going to wish the mountains to fall on them. That should tell you something about God's anger, how fearful it can be. They'd rather have a mountain fall on them rather than face him. Hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. I've read some commentaries, and some of them say that because the sky has departed, these men can see into heaven. And they're actually can see God on the throne. This is why they're saying this. Hide us from him. They can actually see him up there. I don't know if that's true, but it's something to think about. Verse 17, for the great day of his wrath is come. We're always warned about God's coming back. He's coming back, going to destroy the earth, which is true. We're always warned about it through the news or a street preacher or something. It obviously seems at this time, this future time, men will recognize what's about to happen. They recognize he's about to come. Verse 17, they say, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? That's a rhetorical question. It's not trying to get an answer. It's more of a statement.
Amen.
It's not asking, who shall be able to stand? Tell me. It's who is going to be able to survive from his wrath, which is already being displayed anyway. But he hasn't come yet. He hasn't come yet. We have all the way to chapter 19 before he actually comes. So there's more to happen. Men need to make sure that they are not a part of this group. We know we aren't, because of salvation.
Amen.
And we have the hope of the rapture. But in Jesus' words in Matthew 7, that many people will be surprised to know that they're not saved when they stand before him. A lot of people that think they're saved could be surprised and shocked. And they could actually end up in something like this. If you weren't alive during the tribulation, you wouldn't go through it, even if you were an unbeliever. But you still have to look forward to an eternal hell. It doesn't get any better. So anytime you read something this depressing, you have to tell people of the way out. So to make sure you're not in this group, here's what you need to know. Without righteousness, without perfect righteousness, no man, no woman will see heaven. Without perfect righteousness. This is God's standard. None of us no man, no woman can see heaven because of our sinfulness. We've already missed that mark, which is what sin means, to miss the mark. We've already missed that mark of perfect righteousness. As Romans says in chapter 3, we've fallen short of the glory of God. All people have fallen short. We've fallen short of that mark, that perfect righteousness. And God, in His righteousness, demands a penalty for our sinfulness, which is an eternal hell. And there's nothing men can do on their own merit to escape that penalty. Yes, men can be good compared to other men. You can do good works. Everybody knows good people. But that counts for nothing as far as perfect righteousness goes. We all fall short.
Yeah.
So, God, even in His righteousness, was gracious, sending His Son, who was perfect, to the cross to die the penalty of a sinner. Someone who was not a sinner, who did no sin, was punished as a sinner. People always say, Christ died for me. Well, here's what that means. When it says He died for you, here's what that means. Christ dying as a sinner, being punished as a sinner, means that He died as you. He died as you.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person has to take that personally. When you say Christ died as you, it's for you, not for the next person. It's for you. When it says that Christ died for the whole world, we know that the whole world won't be saved. But His death was sufficient. If the whole world believed,
Mm-hmm.
it will be sufficient. One perfect man dying on the cross counts for all of us. You have to believe that. You have to believe of your own sin and what it means as far as God's punishment. And you have to believe in a substitute for your escape from that penalty. It's a substitution. 2 Corinthians 5, verse 21. He made Him, God made Christ to be sin for us, so that we may be made the righteousness of God in Him. God made Christ, or treated Christ as if it were me on the cross, dying a penalty as a sinner. And in exchange, I received perfect righteousness that Christ had.
Amen.
When God sees Christ, He sees you as a sinner on the cross. When He sees Christ, He sees you in perfect righteousness.
Mm.
It's a switch. He takes your sin, you take His righteousness. And now there is no reason for you to be left out of heaven. That's the confidence in which you have to believe.
Mm.
If you want to escape this and hell.
Amen.
Amen. We'll stop there. Next time, start in chapter 7.
Amen.